Good day. My name is Gia. In today's webinar, I will show you how to activate the student self-registration feature. Know that this feature may be used when your students are at school or whether they're working remotely at home. This webinar will also share with you the information that you must give to your students if they're going to sign into the correct classroom. I will show you the whole student sign-in process. And then finally, we will go back into your teacher's account to make sure that the students have signed themselves into the correct classrooms. So let's get started. The first thing you need to make sure is that your students are not signing in at typingagent.com. They are to be signing into the correct web address that your administrator or your sales representative would have given to you. So for example, this particular school knows this is a standalone school where there's only one administrator and that administration's teachers and students, this is where they would sign in. And this has a very different web address from this district where, and I know this is a district account because the district persons had put something on here to show that this is their district's account. You may want to make sure that your district or your school does something like this just to cue the students in that they're signing in at the correct web address. However, if ever you don't know, there's a way that you can find this out once you sign in. And I'll show you that once we get in. So we want to activate the students registration feature. Only administrators can activate this feature. So I'm going to log in as this district administrator. I land on this splash page where it shows me the school management tab, and that's the one I want. I click that and I move all the way over where it says district portal. I click that district portal, scroll down, and at the bottom it says allow student sign up. I click to activate that button and I click save. I can scroll up and I see portal settings have been updated successfully. So for any student signing into this district, I know that they can go in and do self-registration, but let's go and confirm that. I will go into account. I will see what this account, whenever you're not sure where what your URL is, if you can sign in to your typing agent account, you can get that. Just click where it says account and then you will get that information. So again, if your students sign up here, this takes me automatically to typingagent.com. If I were to sign in with any other credentials that are not active for this account, I will get an error message. 9 times out of 10, when your students complain to you, hey, I can't get in, it's because they're logging in here instead of, for this school, notice I had copied their web address. They can sign in at this particular web address. Notice all of a sudden at this district, you see the student self-registration button here. Any student in this district can now click this button and get signed in. So I'm going to get off there and let's move on to that single standalone school that only has this district, that only has one administrator and teachers with students. Notice down here, there's nothing that says student self-registration. So I want to remedy that. I want my students to be able to sign in. So as the administrator of this account, I put in my credentials with my username and password and I get in. If ever I don't know where my students are to sign in, I just click here where it says web address, and now I know that's exactly where my students, this is what my students need to have when they're logging into Typing Agent. So I'm going to move here and I want to see to create a classroom. I want my students, say in grade 5, to log in. Oops, you know what? I haven't gone and activated this. So if I had gone and created my classroom and wanted my kids to self-register, if I had not activated this, my kids would get an error message. So good thing I caught myself before I actually went ahead and did that. So under this admin, I click school management, just like the district administrators would have done. But instead of clicking district admin, I click school portal. I then scroll down and same thing, I click that allow students sign up button and I save it. Notice it's ticked and I get that message saying portal have been updated successfully. So I know that now this is working fine. Now, if my administrator had gone in and added classrooms for me, great. But if my admin didn't, well, it's still okay because I can go and create my own as long as I've been given permission to do so. I'm going to enter my class name and I'm just going to call my class name grade 5. By clicking this, I'm assigning all children who sign into this class the grade 5 curriculum. If I wanted them to work on a grade 2 curriculum, I can do this, but nope, I'm going to set my students to do the grade 5 curriculum. I am the teacher and I click create. As soon as I do that, notice my grade 5 classroom is to the left. I'm going to click on that left and notice I have no students in there. If I want to get to I need to now get the key to activate my students that my students will use if they want to sign up into my typing agent account. So I can do that one of two ways. I can click add students. I can get the key from here and enable it, or I can I don't want to click on anything, but I can just click here where it says class code disabled. I can click on that and it tells me that it's been disabled, but I want to enable it. So by enabling it, it's going to tell me that my kids can now self-register. Most times, teachers don't want the kids to self-register because students may put in the wrong information. So because I'm working remotely or because I have older kids who can sign themselves into the correct classroom, I can actually go and do this. Now, what I've done is I've taken down this U3URAN because this is the class code for this particular class. Notice it says I can disable it if I don't want it, if I don't want it disabled, if I don't want it enabled, but I won't do that. I want my kids to be able to sign into this particular classroom, so I have to make sure I give them that correct code. If I wanted to check, I can see that code is right there all the time, visible, so that I know that my self-registration feature is in there. Notice though, on this grade 2, well, I've done it for grade 2, but on this grade 4 classroom, that is not enabled. So that's how I know right at a glance that this class is not activated. Notice though, with this code, if I were to somehow give my grade 5 students this code, they will sign themselves into this grade 2 classroom. I don't want to make that mistake. I want to make sure share this code with my students. So that's all I have to do to activate this feature as a teacher. So I'm going to make sure when I communicate with my students that they're going to be logging in at the correct web address that I have shared with them. Also, they're going to be using the correct URL, the correct class code to log themselves into the correct classroom. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to log out of here. And again, it takes me to that main typing agent page that you nor your students should ever be using. Remember, you should always go into this page. Notice, voila, there's a student self-registration button there. So this is what your students will use when they use Typing Agent for the first time. They're going to register here, and once they've self-registered, from now on, they will log in with that username and password. But notice they have to give themselves that information first. So they click the student self-registration button, and first thing they ask them for is that class code. So the class code that we had was U3URAN. I'm hoping I recorded that correctly, because I would hate for my students to be logging themselves into the wrong classroom. Now my students give themselves a username. So I'm going to call myself Patricia, give myself a password, and my name is Patricia, and my last name, let's call myself Burrows. And then once I have all my information, I sign up. And if I do this correctly, the program will automatically take me into the program. So now I am in as Patricia, and I see the different curriculums that my teachers have made available, or my school has made available for me. So that's it. So remember, if Patricia is to log in, Patricia has to log in with, now she has created her username and password for herself. She logs in here, and she would put in her username and her password. She doesn't have to self-register anymore because she's done that already. Now, as a teacher, I want to check to make sure that Patricia signed herself into the correct classroom. So I sign in at that same web address with my username and password. I can click on grade 5, and I can see that Patricia is indeed, she has signed herself into this correct classroom. If for any reason you think your children have signed themselves into Typing Agent, but you cannot find them, please ask your administrator to go in and check under their user management tab, and check under the unassigned students tab. Anyone who signed themselves into the account but is not in there will fall into this realm. If they're signed into Typing Agent, but they have not placed themselves in the correct classroom or a classroom, they would be in this particular environment. So that's all, folks. I've walked you through this. In this webinar, I took you through how students can self-register, how you set it up that they can self-register. I've shared with you the important information that you need to share with your students if they're to sign themselves into your district or your school's account and into the correct classroom. And remember, again, this can be used when the children are at school, or whether they're working remotely at home or anywhere in the world they may be. Should you ever have any questions or concerns, please, you can always email us at support@typingagent.com. And that is SUPPORT@typingagent. That's TYPINGAGENT.com. You may always communicate with us using the in-app chat feature, that little blue box that's at the bottom of your teacher's or admin's login screen. Or you can always search in our Solution Center. Whenever you log in, you'll see Solution Center or Help. In there, just click on those buttons, ask your questions, and something will pop up that can possibly answer your questions. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you joining us. Remember, Typing Agent's bottom line is we want to make sure that you and your students are successful when they're self-registering, but also when they're using typingagent.com. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day. Bye.